Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Metropolitan Sports Radio. It's our third show today, and just wanted to point out that ever since we started the show, the Mets have not lost a game yet. Had 6 straight wins for the Mets, and ever since we started the show, the Nats have not won a game. That's 5 straight losses for the Nationals. I'll pass it over to my dad to talk more about the Mets game since our last broadcast on Friday.
Thanks, Jamie. Well, over the last 2 days, the Mets have won again twice, 5-1 and 6-4, in pretty impressive fashion, I think, both times. A few themes. One is that Cespedes continues to hit like crazy. He hit a home run in both games, a 2-run shot in the first game, and a solo shot in the second game. He's now batting an incredible .312 with 16 home runs, 41 runs batted in, and 35 runs scored in 39 games since he's joined the Mets. His OPS is at 1.041, which is pretty crazy. The other encouraging things for the Mets are that both Matz and Syndergaard came back. Syndergaard was amazing today. He came out slightly rusty. He walked the first guy who scored. But after that, he was lights out. He hit 101 on the radar gun regularly with his four-seamer. He averaged 99.8 miles an hour on his fastball. And he struck out 8 and only walked 1. Unfortunately, Tyler Clippard very uncharacteristically coughed up the lead. And so Syndergaard didn't get the win. But the Mets, as they have seeming to do every game now, rallied again in the ninth inning, scored 2 runs. Kelly Johnson provided a key hit, and the Mets prevailed 6-4. Yesterday, Steve Matz came back after his stint on the DL. He was a bit rusty, to be honest. In his every start in the majors, he had struck out at least 6 batters. Yesterday, he only struck out 2, and he was yanked after 5 innings, but with the lead, and he got the win. So I think it was an encouraging start for him to come back. He needs to throw a bit more, but he's probably still slated for a slot in the postseason rotation. We'll see how it goes from here, but not too bad. I'd say the only bad sign is that Tyler Clippard, who maybe he's been overworked recently, but he seems to have hit a bit of a speed bump. He gave a couple hits yesterday, and then today he gave up a 3-run home run and lost and blew the lead. Until these last few games, he's been lights out. So hopefully it's just a small blip on the road for him. But we need him to be good.
Speaking of Clifford, I think the Mets may have overused Clifford a little bit because he's not been that great his past few outings, to sort of put in context, because the Nats also, I think Bryce Harper got a homer off him the other time he faced the Nats. So when he faced the Braves, pinch hit 3-run homer. But I guess, last time out he had a clean outing. I think allowed 2 base runners, and that's it. No runs.
Another milestone was reached today also. Familia got his 40th save, becoming only the third closer in Mets history to reach 40 saves. You know who the other 2 are, Jamie?
I forgot. These 2 guys with Spanish names, I think. Spanish-like names.
Armando Benitez and Billy Wagner, which is not very Spanish, but...
Okay. Apart from that, so the Mets also got, Cespedes homered again. He's been homering every game. And then another milestone today was, of course, David Ortiz's 500th homer, which we will talk more about later.
Before we move off the Mets, just wanted to point out that Cespedes has been getting all the attention, but 2 other heroes. Kelly Johnson, I think, has been amazing since coming over from the Braves. He's gotten a lot of clinch hits. I think he's had 5 home runs since he's come over. And so I think he's really spurred the offense. Um, the other thing is Wilmer Flores, who, as we know, almost got traded for Carlos Gomez. He has batted over 300 since the non-trade went through. I think he's batted 316 to be exact, and he's looked much more comfortable in the shortstop position. He's fielding his position really well, um, and in terms of offense, has also really turned it on. He's, in fact, outperformed Gomez quite a bit. So, in addition to batting 316, he's had 6 home runs, 19 RBIs, and 8 doubles. Whereas Carlos Gomez, since joining the Astros, he's batting 239 with 4 home runs and 13 runs batted in. So, the minor piece of the deal, Flores is actually outperforming Carlos Gomez, and that's not, even starting to talk about Cespedes and what he's done. So, got to give it to Alderson this time, whether it was luck or skill. The Gomez trade not happening and the Cespedes trade taking its place has been amazing. And it really is pretty amazing too. I've been reading back on some stuff that I remember reading when the Gomez trade fell through, and people on the Mets blogs were all screaming for Alderson's head, saying that this guy needs to be fired. Well, here we are a month later, and I think we have to give credit to the GM and that he had a plan in place.
Another thing is, Keith Hernandez was saying yesterday that he was not very fond of the Gomez trade when it first happened. He thought he wasn't also very fond about Jay Bruce nor Marlon Byrd. And I was reading this article, I think, yesterday about how these players that could have been Mets have performed, and none of them have been doing that great, to say the least. Marlon Byrd, I guess he's been doing alright for the Giants, but other than him, he was really Mets were never really serious about getting him. Cespedes' numbers with the Mets have just been historical.
One other thing that I noticed today, Jamie, that I thought was a fun fact was the winning run today was both driven in and scored by 2 players who were on the Braves earlier this year. So the Braves trade has come back to hurt them this game at least. Kelly Johnson, who was with the Braves as a utility man for most of the year, and EY, who was with the Mets, of course, last year and was a starting day center fielder for the Braves this year. The Mets got him back mainly for his speed, and so he came in to pinch run, and he came around to score on the Kelly Johnson single. So it was ex-Brave driving an ex-Brave.
So that's what the Mets have been up to since Friday. 1-2 in Atlanta. Tomorrow's an afternoon game, Sunday.
A lot else going around in baseball too. Madison Bumgarner, huh?
Yeah.
4 outs from a perfect game, completely dominant. The only blemish was a clean single by, of all people, Melvin Upton, who has an average probably about $1.50. But he got hit up the middle. But otherwise, no walks, dominant performance, and Bumgarner immediately got the last 4 outs of the game. So a 1-hit, complete game shutout. 8-0 for the Giants today.
And Ortiz also hit 2 home runs today. Reached 500th. Hit his 500th homer, Tampa Bay. I think Ortiz would have liked to hit it in Boston, but he still has 500 homers for his career. Quite a few Red Sox fans there. All his teammates came out, shook his hand. 500 homers for Ortiz. Dad, what do you think?
Well, I think that Ortiz still has a shadow of the steroids test overhanging him. In 2003, baseball did sort of game-wide testing, and in 2009 it came out that Ortiz was someone who was on that list. Now, many players were on that list. It was not substantiated also that he was on the list, but for whatever reason, I think there's a bit of a taint over him. So I think people are very happy for him to reach the 500 homer milestone, but there's still a question mark over his head. What do you think?
He had 150-something homer season. That was that season he got tested for. But remember, there were 100-something other players on that list, and their names weren't really mentioned. Ortiz was mentioned on that list. He was one of the big names on that list after having criticized steroid users. But otherwise, he tested in all the other seasons. They tested him. He was clean. It was only just that one test that, for whatever reason, they somehow tested him positive. All the other tests were negative, came back negative, and he still mashed 40-something homers each of those seasons. And you got to give that guy some credit. He has power, and I think it'd be a shame not to see him go into the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's not Alex Rodriguez. Let's throw some fire out at you Yankees fans out there. The Yankees lost a doubleheader today to the Blue Jays. They are now 3 games up for the first wild card, and 4 games up for the second for the team immediately out the wild card race. So,
but they're 4.5 behind.
They're 4.5 behind the Blue Jays right now. So they are, and they face the Mets again next week. Next weekend they face the Mets. Big series, I think. More pressure on the Yankees to win than the Mets. Hopefully the Mets can go sweep them and sweep the Yankees out of the playoffs.
Hey Jamie, what's the standing situation over the National League for home field advantage?
So the Mets right now, I think the Dodgers won again today, so the Mets are still a half game back. So with the Nationals losing and they're 9.5 games out of first place, I think the Mets are now playing to see if they can get home field advantage against the Dodgers, and they're only half game behind the Dodgers. Hopefully they can.
What about the Cardinals, Jamie?
And the Cardinals have also been slumping. It's reminding me that Cardinals have been slumping. They're now only 2.5 games up Pittsburgh. And the best case scenario for you Mets fans out there is if you guys want to root for the Cardinals to finish with the best record, and you want the Mets to finish with the second best record so we can face the Dodgers, because that is the best case scenario for you Mets fans out there, that we face the Dodgers in the postseason, because they probably have the weakest postseason track record out of any of the other teams in contention. Well, we don't know about the Cubs, but they're a young group of guys playing with energy.
Bad record against the Pirates this year.
Yes, we have not won a game against Pittsburgh this year, so we really want to avoid them. We want to avoid St. Louis. They've just been so good in postseason. And what's left? The Dodgers. It's not gone past first round.
The Dodgers have a terrible bullpen. I think that's their problem.
And Kershaw's not been good in the postseason. We'll see how they'll do in the postseason. Also, Dad, Uncle Christian asked me a question this morning to talk about today. His question was, do you think the Red Sox need an ace? Need to sign an ace this offseason?
So what are your thoughts?
I think the Red Sox do need an ace, but their starting pitching has come together very well. These past few weeks, they've played some really good baseball. Starting pitching's not been the problem; it's been their bullpen. And again, I have to say, that Dave Dombrowski does not have a good track record for building good bullpen. So hopefully he can change that a little bit. I think before going out to get an ace, they should do that. And I think the second part of his question was, which guy should they sign if they go out to get an ace? Well, if they go out to get an ace, they have, they have quite a few good quality starting pitchers now. They have Joe Kelly, who's been doing great. He said he'd win the Cy Young Award this year, maybe next year. They've had Rick Porcello, who's come around after going out with an injury. If he can continue to get that momentum up. Wade Miley has been pitching an awful lot better. Clay Buchholz, hopefully he comes back next year.